Okay, hi everyone. So, today's video. I honestly have attempted to film this. This is my third time filming this, so hopefully this works out. I will be showing you my kind of revamped collection spreadsheet, and I honestly think that my spreadsheet is pretty much at its, I don't want to say its peak, but this is probably how it's going to stay until, this is just it for it. So, I don't really plan on making any major changes to this in the future. Stylistic I guess, or yeah, I just don't really plan to change much about it because I feel like I'm at a point with it where it just is what it is and I don't need to do anything with it. So, yeah, I actually, redid this quite a while ago. Now I'm just going to take you through and show you the changes that I made and kind of just talk about it a little bit. So, first things first, you can see my summary page here. So, I put like the totals of all of the different collections I have kind of on this. So, including like Kpop and vinyl and my CDs and stuff, just because I feel like that's kind of what a summary page is for. This spreadsheet isn't just my Kpop collection. Technically, that's what's there. And yeah, that's basically it, obviously, for this page. But then we move over to the 2023 new releases. So, I don't know if I've really mentioned this, but I feel like I did. I don't know. But I did not really utilize this sheet last year. This is a sheet that I've consistently kept over the years, but I've never, not used it like I did last year. I just kind of forgot about this whole thing. And I didn't know if I'd want to keep using it in the future, but I honestly think that just considering everything. So, I don't know. I feel like it'd be a good way to just keep, I honestly do think it's a good way to keep track of, the things that I need to get, because it can just be helpful to look at just at a glance. So it's kind of like a grocery list for 2023 new releases. So it's just if I want to buy something, I can go to this sheet and know exactly what I might want to get. So I do have this filled out through January. At this point in February, I don't think there's any releases from February that I want to get that I can think of. I am filming this on Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to y'all. Yeah, if there's anything I need or want to get from February, I'll put it in there. Yeah, I guess the main thing with this sheet is that it does look a lot simpler than it did in the past. So that's kind of like a theme throughout the rest of my entire spreadsheet here, through all the spreadsheets. Just because I feel like at this point I don't feel like I need to make things cute for this is just a utility to me. I just need a place to track this stuff. And it does not need to be cute. It doesn't need to be colorful. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to work. That's it. And that's exactly what all of this does. So it's not overcomplicated. It's not I didn't overdress it or anything. It just is what it is. And I think that's what I prefer. Okay, so moving on to my main collection. This is the biggest change. I combined the boy and girl group sheets into one. And so obviously this is just all the main groups that I collect right now that I'm putting on the sheet. It is separated by boy and girl groups. Still, you can see the left is girls, the right is boys. That's really how it is. I am collecting a lot less in general these days, so it just kind of makes sense to have it all on one sheet instead of, separating it out into a million different places. Yeah, I do have running totals here. So these here are the totals of, this is the total of girl group albums I have, this is the total of boy group albums I have, and then this number right here in the middle is just obviously these two numbers added together, so it is the total number of albums I have for my main collections. And I really wanted to simplify the way that I count how many albums I have, because I felt like the way I was doing it before was kind of a little bit convoluted, a little bit messy, a little bit too much maybe. The way that I'm tracking things now is I'm listing out all of the versions of albums now, and I wasn't doing that before because I thought it would look kind of messy. And I feel like in the way that I did have my spreadsheet set up, it before it would have been messy, but I think this way it is a lot more manageable, I guess. So you can see that I, literally have everything listed out over here in the Blackpink section. And the way that I wanted to be able to differentiate between albums and eras or whatever, just because I felt like If I want to make this easy to look at, and if I want to make this kind of work for me better, then that is something I'd want to do. So I just, changed the colors of the check marks, and that kind of runs consistent with all of the groups. So you can see with Blackpink, I just did it alternating black and pink colors, but like for NCT and like literally every other group, for the check marks, I just changed the colors to either a color that kind of matches the album or a color that kind of matches the vibe of the comeback or whatever. So like over here in NCT for Neozone, I use yellow because, Kick It, yellow. And for Sticker, I used green because the album is green. Pretty simple. But yeah, like I said, that's consistent throughout all of the groups that I have here. So, with ITZY, this right side is basically all just NCT and Obtention up here at the bottom, or I guess down here at the bottom. And then over here is Twice, and it's the same. So, and that is basically just what this looks like. I will say I really wanted to simplify. I don't even know, I don't know if I finished my thought when I was talking about this, but I wanted to simplify the way that I counted all of the albums. So I wanted to, so the reason I'm listing out all of the versions now is because I wanted to be able to use the count if formula, which just makes counting the amount of albums that I have a lot easier, because if I press the check mark and fill it in, then it, adds to the number here and here. And if I take away, it takes away from there and there. So it just is a lot easier, and I don't really have to go in and fix the formulas really at all. If this works the way that I want it to, it should be continuously, it should stay the way it should. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, that was basically it for my main collection. And so then we move on to my miscellaneous collection, and this is just everything else that I have that is literally just not on that other page. So yeah, I just have it all listed out here, pretty much same. It's kind of laid out the same as it was before, but I just made it like a continuous list. And so we're right here, again, I'm using the count if formula just to count the total of albums that I have. And then, artist, album, the date the album came out, where it is in their discography, and the version. And that's basically all the information I need to know. Yeah, so I just made it one continuous list. And that's mostly because I wanted to be able to make it so that I could use filters if need be. So I just made the filter, right? And it just makes it so that I can sort this however I feel necessary. So sorting by artist there, and then sorting by, if I have it, if I don't, which is really the only way I'd really maybe need to sort it, or I could sort it by date. But really it just gives me the option to do that, not that I really need to, but, having the option is always better than not having the option, you know what I mean? But yeah, so continuous list, it's basically just looks the same as it did before. Just a lot less, I guess a lot more compact, and, makes just more sense. So yeah, that's everything there. And again, my photocard sheet looks a lot different. I honestly haven't updated this in quite a while, so I've already talked about how I've on video, in my downsizing video, I already did talk about how I'm downsizing Taeyong, and I'm not collecting him anymore, so I do kind of need to go through and update this and everything. But I figured, again, having kind of a checklist for all of my photocard collections might make it easier, especially when it comes to just keeping track of what I have and what I don't have. It just gives me a easier list. And I do feel like the way that I was doing it before was maybe a little bit too convoluted and messy, and I think in theory it wasn't too bad of an idea, but I don't think there's really a good way of executing it in a way that is super helpful, if that makes sense. So I guess if you just look at the mark section here, this is just a lot more helpful to look at, at a glance. It's just easier to see what I do and don't have. So I do need to update this, like I said, but I just haven't gotten to it lately. But yeah, I just pretty much have everyone that I collect listed out here. I decided to separate out Twice, OT9 sets, and Jihyo. So I guess, again, it's easier to kind of see what I do and don't have for both things. And yeah, I just have, again, everyone that I collect listed out here, everything that I need. And then again, this is kind of where my old photocard sheet concept comes in again, because this is kind of where I feel like it's more helpful in the miscellaneous section here, just because these are things that I don't collect, so it's not necessarily something I have to keep track of, and I can just kind of, keep the numbers. I just have like every single, group that I don't collect listed out here that I have photo cards for, I guess. And again, just the numbers to like easily keep track of how much I have, which I don't even know. Is it necessary that I keep track of cards that I have but don't necessarily collect? Maybe not, but I don't know. It's nice to see the numbers, I guess. That's essentially it for this page. And again, here's my vinyl sheet. I guess we're moving out of the Kpop collection part of this, but it's whatever. I guess if you want to click out, go ahead. But if you're interested in seeing how I did this, I guess keep watching. But again, this pretty much just looks the same as it did before. It just looks a lot simpler. I'm just done trying to be fancy about it, so yeah. And again, I just kind of separated from, main collections or more priority collections up at the top here, and then, everything else is kind of down here, which, yeah, so that's just that. And then for my CDs, again, I just have this listed out in a way that, I can like sort and stuff like that if I want to. At this point, I honestly don't know if keeping this sheet in particular is really that helpful, just because I know there are ways that I can keep track of this collection online, like on Discogs and stuff, like on my phone. Same with like my vinyl collection, but I don't know if I I don't know if I want to just completely rely on tracking something on an app. Because Discogs is helpful, but there's not always all of the information that you need there. So I don't know. Because I also don't make much of an effort to use this anyways, so I honestly need to kind of make more sense of that, because I use a library app to keep track of like all my books and stuff, and I do find that to be rather helpful, because I don't use a spreadsheet to keep track of my books, because that's kind of like a lot. But I just don't know if I want to completely switch to using like an app to track this stuff, so I don't know. But last sheet is 48 group stuff, and this is a pretty big change. If you remember how it looked before, it was kind of like really messy actually, and I just wanted to redo this because I don't know. Again, I was trying to make it so that because I was trying to be like, when I was buying like 48 group stuff, I was trying to be like pretty selective with what I was buying, and I wanted to make sure that I could successfully buy the things that I wanted without, making any mistakes, which, again, I think the idea was, like, in theory, it might have been a good idea, but I just don't think I executed it very well. And I think this is just a lot simpler, easier to look at and stuff like that. So, again, I just have it separated by subunit, and I use the check marks to kind of differentiate. Again, it just is kind of like by the colors in their logos that I changed the check marks to. So, yeah, but again, I just listed everything out. I did make sure to use Japanese and, English titles for things, because, if I want to search it up on like Mercari Japan or something, I'd want the Japanese title. So yeah, again, it's just a running list of all the things that I have. And honestly, I think I need to get back into listening to more of 48 Group. But I don't know. At this point, I don't know if I can really get much into them, just because I feel like I don't know many of the girls anymore. Like, most of my faves have graduated. So yeah, at this point, I'm not sure if I know many of the girls. So that is pretty much it for my entire spreadsheet for my collections and stuff. And I want to say that my inspiration for kind of simplifying everything is basically this spreadsheet here. I did actually used to have all of this stuff in my last spreadsheet, but it kind of got to be a little bit too much, so I moved it to its own. But I was making these lists specifically, and it was just so simple and like easy, and it just made me want to switch everything over to just being, pretty much make it look like I typed things in and didn't really worry much about it, because that's kind of what I'm going for. But this here is, like it says, Vintage Romance Collection, book-wise, I guess. Again, if you're not interested in this, I am going to talk about this because, I don't know, it's just what I'm into these days. It's like just an interest of mine, so if you care to hear about it, you're welcome to stay, but if you don't want to hear about it, goodbye. Hope you enjoyed the video. But this is my, I don't know, I already said that I don't keep track of my books like in a spreadsheet, and I don't. And this is just, I started to, yeah, so like my interest of like vintage romance. It's basically just books that came out in the 80s and 90s. Most of them are historical romance, but not all of them. So this list specifically, this sheet, is basically for me to just keep track of covers that were done by the artist Pino Dani. And he was a pretty prolific artist, and he did a lot of artwork for specifically romance novels during his, I don't know, when he was alive and active, I guess. From what I've seen, it is said that he's done about 3,000 different covers for, different books and stuff. I'm pretty sure all of them are specifically romance. I could be wrong, but it's hard to tell. But anyways, his art style is very distinct, and I really love his art style, and I kind of want to own a lot of the books that he has done covers for, just because I really love his art style, and I think it's just beautiful, to put it simply. And I wanted to make a list because, as far as I know, there's not a comprehensive list of everything that he's done at, this time. I literally don't think it exists. So I've just been trying to compile everything that I can possibly find, and I've been doing, hours and hours and hours of research, and I feel like I might sound a little bit crazy for doing this, just because, I don't know, this really has taken up a lot of my time, which is kind of ridiculous, but yeah, I'm just literally trying to find everything that he's done a cover for, and at this point, I will scroll to the bottom of this list, because like I said, he's done about 3,000 different covers, and I have found about 725, plus some up here, so maybe about 730-ish. Okay, there's one that he's done, I guess. Since I accidentally clicked on it, you can see it. But yeah, I basically just wanted to have a running list so that if I ever come across some, like when I'm out doing some thrifting or stuff like that, that I can just, check off the ones that I have and stuff. Obviously, my goal isn't really to own all of these, but it's just kind of like a point of reference. Yeah, he's really done some beautiful covers and stuff, and I mean, a lot of people love his work, obviously me included, so I just would like to keep track of it. Yeah, but a lot of this here is just category romances, which is just basically different publishers doing, releasing books in a line or series, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but Zebra Lovegram series, they're all historical romances, and that's pretty much the only connector besides them all being published by Zebra. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, Pino Dani actually did a lot of covers for this series in particular, and he didn't do much for Zebra Heartfire series, but he did some for, actually I think that's it. Oh, he did some for Harlequin historical series as well. So, I don't know. But I just have a really sudden interest in category romances, all specifically from the 80s and 90s too. I guess with the Harlequin historical series, that started in the 80s, 1988, and it's actually still going today. But I'm only really interested in the ones that came out in the 80s and 90s. And these I am kind of trying to collect. Again, not necessarily fully, my goal isn't to own all of them, but if I come across them, I do want to buy and own them and eventually read them. And yeah, it's just a lot, especially with, and it's just there's a lot of different publishers did a lot of different series. So Avon and Diamond was, I don't know if they were a publisher or not, but they put out books very briefly. And Zebra did a lot of different series, and there's also a lot of contemporary romance series as well that I am unfortunately getting quite into. The only thing I will say about collecting these types of books is that they are very cheap. When I do find them, I don't have to shell out a lot of money for them. They're for example, yesterday I went to Goodwill and found about 12 books. I just happened to be lucky, and they were all half off because of the tag was the color of the week or whatever. And so I only spent $12 for 12 books. The paperbacks I got were about 75 cents each, and hardcovers were $125, so very cheap. And yeah, this isn't necessarily like an expensive hobby, which is why I don't really feel too like caught up about it, because it contrasts with K-pop a lot in that I've put so much money into my K-pop collection over the years, and I feel like at this point I'm almost like afraid to spend money on K-pop, because actually over the years prices have gone up so much, especially like for shipping mostly. When I first started collecting K-pop, I could buy an album for like $16-17, and now it's like 25 like minimum. So I don't know, it's rough. Yeah, I also have an author list here, again, just for, thrifting purposes when I'm out at a bookstore, whatever. Yeah, that was really it for this whole thing. If you stayed and listened to the end, thank you for listening to me ramble about my weird interests. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, this is kind of like the peak of where my spreadsheets are going to go. I honestly really prefer the simple look over everything else, so I don't ever plan to make any real big changes to this unless I get some, like inspiration. But otherwise, this is how it'll pretty much stay. I don't know if I'll ever really make another spreadsheet video again. I might, if I like want to go through and like make a video of me just adding stuff and chatting. Well, we'll see. We'll have to see about that, because I don't know. But you can let me know if you care for those videos. Nobody really watches them anyways, but if you like them, let me know, I guess. But yeah, with that said, I think that was everything I wanted to say for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.